Hello, welcome. I'm here at home. I'm in my home office. Um, I live in a very convenient apartment or unit, you might say, a rental unit in downtown Boston. Um, uh, that's all I can say right now about that. I do my live broadcast from my home office, and I've got it worked out. I've got a system worked out, and I'm still working on learning how to use the YouTube platform, customizing my setup. So, but I wanted to before I say anything else today, I wanted to show y'all something that I really like. And okay, let's see, that's upside down. Hang on. Okay, can you see that? Does anybody recognize this? This right here? This is a painting by Rembrandt, the famous artist. And does anybody recognize who that character is? Who that person is that he's made this portrait of? Who it represents the portrait? Are there any clues or anything to that? Okay, so that's all I want to show you. This is a print. I don't own an actual Rembrandt. I would be in jail or probably very wealthy if I owned a original Rembrandt. This is a print copy that I acquired not too long ago. And I just wanted to give an example of how biblical truths are expressed through human art and human culture. Um, that was Moses holding up the Ten Commandments. Um, that um, I don't know what the actual title that Rembrandt gave to this particular painting, but um, I just really wanted to kind of show that off. It's one of the favorite things I have in my possession, um, besides my computer and my books, especially. Um, I used to be into clothes a lot. When I was in Bible college, the student body was very competitive about having the nicest clothes. Um, for attending classes and going to work and going to services at church and all that. And I used to have some nice suits with nice ties and all that. Everything was matching. And I bought cufflinks and everything for formal occasions. But I'm not into that. I'm not so much of a clothes horse anymore. I'd rather be comfortable and relaxed and not try to impress people so much, but just try to be you know presentable, I guess, in you know that sense. So anyway, that's enough about me. The other reason I wanted to make mention of a few things before the Friday broadcast, this Friday, the 24th, coming up in 2 days at 5:30 p.m. And the reason I wanted to do that is because what I'm attempting to do is I'm attempting to generate interest in my study, and I want a faithful following of people who for whatever reasons or whatever motives may enjoy or benefit from these broadcasts. And they will all be everything I broadcast will then be videotaped and processed and posted on my YouTube channel. Now, if you want to find my YouTube channel, it's very simple. All you have to do is enter the letters TGROENEMAN, and then space and capital GROENEMAN. The reason I did that is because all my life, people do not recognize my name or remember how to spell my name. There's still to this day on my real estate records, one of the people who was supposed to be managing the building I live in miswrote my name, and I asked her to correct the spelling 3 or 4 times, and they still got it wrong. For some reason, they didn't want to have the accurate spelling of my name in their records, in their real estate records. That was Wynn Residential, who owned the building I'm in, that I live in and I work in, where my home office and my apartment and my whole situation is in Boston. Well, the company that managed the building before the company I have now was named Wynn Management, WINN. And according to some people in Boston, these are reputable people, competent people. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But for God's sake, could you at least get my last name spelled right? So, and throughout my life, people have said, "How do you spell that? How do you pronounce that?" I mean, if you really care about somebody, or if you're interested in their lives or something, you're going to get their name right, even if it's a Russian name, or a very complicated Pakistani name or something. If you care about that person, you're going to get their name right. you know. So anyway, that's just a particular stickler for me, is my last name, because I got it from my father, and I loved my father, and he was a great man in a lot of ways. And so I want to be able to honor him and carry on the family name as best I can. So thank you for indulging me. There I go talking about myself again. How selfish, right? So anyway, sometimes you have to be a little bit selfish, I think, because there are a lot of takers out there, if you know what I'm saying. Who just want to just live for themselves and take everything they can out of this world, and the rest of us, can suffer or be deprived or whatever, and they're completely indifferent. And these types of people, because of their skill and commitment to their values, whichever they may be, their values or ethics, you might say, they can amass incredible amounts of wealth. And I kind of wonder about the philanthropy or the generosity of certain types like these, who amass all this wealth, but then pretend to be very caring and concerned humans about other men and women when they donate to charities, and their only motive for doing that is to write it off on their taxes. These big foundations, like the Clinton Foundation, for example, they were getting millions of dollars from foreign governments and different agencies and international non-governmental organizations, and all kinds of entities were giving them money and paying them 500,000, 750. These are facts I'm relating to you. I'm not making this stuff up. And the Clinton Foundation was monitored by investigators during the presidential campaign, but you didn't hear about that. You didn't hear much about that. But anyway, according to the Clintons, their foundation was set up to help people who were in need and help the poor and so forth. And I won't judge them. I don't know their motives or the reasons why they set up the foundation or anything. But I kind of wonder if there's this whole Russian collusion thing going on with Trump and Hillary Clinton's all invested in getting paid $750,000 for speeches by these entities that contribute to her campaign and want to influence her policies in our government. And I kind of wonder about that. You know, if that is the case, and maybe Hillary is not the only individual who may have practiced these kind of duplicitous campaign funding methods and so forth, maybe she's not the only one. But as far as American politics goes, and the lobbying industry in Washington, D.C., and the influence of foreign governments like Saudi Arabia and other foreign governments in our body politic as American citizens, we have a right to know these things. They should be told us by our press. Our press needs to represent us and represent the cause of democracy and so forth in our culture, in our discourse, in our community. And when I read the paper and there's completely silent about obvious transgressions or abuses or whatever you want to call it of 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 that kind of power that kind of money comes from, um so I'm wondering, people are talking a lot about the shadow government, and I know a lot of conservatives and right wingers or whatever you want to call them, these kind of hammerhead types who are always talking about family and values and things like that, and as if they were more righteous than people that were good people on the left too. So, this whole discourse, the way it's set up now, where we're always going against each other because these two parties are supposed to be the only parties that represent us in government. And so the 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 American system of two parties to select the people that are to govern is, I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe we need to revisit that in some way. This is just a suggestion, just a thought I have from having taken civics in high school. I didn't take political science in college. I haven't read de Tocqueville's or Adam Smith or the Federalist Papers or any of these documents that were Adam Smith's economic theory. I haven't read the literature and works of these great economists like Milton Friedman or some others, but these are held up as people who have done research and studied government and policy. Now, I can say for sure that I do like John Locke as a philosophy of political theory or something like that. And there are other books that you can read that sort of give you the basic thought body, the body of thought that was written early in the 16th and 17th centuries to that inspired the people that wrote our Constitution. That's political science, political history, economic theory, things like these, that people who are in the loop, or you might say, that are supposed to be our government and are supposed to be aware of these things, they that's what they should go by. Um these these this this body of literature in government theory and so forth and philosophy that was the inspiration for people like Thomas Jefferson and Hamilton. And oh, by the way, that's supposed to be a really exciting Broadway play. I haven't gone to that yet, but maybe I can watch it on video. That'd be a lot easier than going down to New York City and buying a $50 ticket. But anyway, um, and then couple other people. Um, I'm just sort of talking about how I see my government working for me. Now, a lot of people think Christians have no business being in government or talking about their government. Well, I want, despite whatever my faith is, I want my values as a human being and as a man, a citizen, as a male in America of a certain age and a certain economic status. I want to be represented in my Congress and in my government. I won't vote for people that I don't want them to represent me. If I vote for somebody that doesn't represent my values, that's being irresponsible as a US citizen. Now, if people want to, advocate for certain laws, the best way they can do that is to vote somebody into office who represents those values that they hold. Some people call ethics, there's kind of like a gray area between what values and ethics are. Ethics are principled practices carried out by people who have power or people who make major decisions or make decisions for others. That's why ethics are important. However, there's this whole question also of morality. In the 70s, they had a big movement amongst many voters in America who thought that morality was an important value that needed to be held up and talked about, and they thought that our legislators should represent the morality that we practice. So that goes back to the Ten Commandments. Now, how many people that founded our government and wrote the Constitution believed in God or read the Bible? I don't know. But I will say that there are a few who have at least said by real statements in public and in the news and the press and so forth that they held to biblical values, and that has been attacked, you might say, or reacted to by non-Christian, non-conservative movements or people in the political world, in the political environment of America, our body politic, you might say. So I guess that's a long way around, a long-winded way of saying you get what you vote for. And Obama was a clear case of that. Some people liked him a lot, others didn't. I'm kind of in the didn't camp overall. I think basically, I thought he was a decent man. I've never met him I don't know him that well. All I know is what I hear in the news, and the news is filtered for me. It's kind of presented in a way that represents the values of the news organizations that run it. So, you know, I'm never going to get pure objectivity in the press, or nor would I demand it. And I'm never going to get, as a Christian in America, um, the kind of representation that I would like to have, that I pray for, but I'm not going to impose my morals on other people. They have a free moral choice of their own to make every day. Every day in our lives, we make choices to make these moral decisions, and we're faced with it all our lives, in our families, in our personal lives, going about our days, going about our weeks, going about our months. We have to make these decisions every day. Should I have another drink? Should I get into my car drunk? Should I shoot this gun at this person? These are all moral choices that we all have to make every day. And if people aren't aware of the choices that they have or that they can make, I'd rather not like spend a lot of time attacking Hollywood. I think there are a lot of very creative, interesting people in Hollywood. That's why celebrities are so popular. But I will say that a lot of the stuff that Hollywood produces nowadays is not necessarily socially conscientious or productive historically. There are a few exceptions to that, like men like or the movies like Schindler's List or Band of Brothers, movies like this that show us our history as a nation and the people that lived and died creating and making our nation, whatever race or gender they may be. Okay, let's get that clear. America, according to the Constitution, we all have the same inalienable rights given to us, granted to us by our Creator. Our Creator is the word that the founders and the framers of the Constitution used. So, at least in letter, in the text of the Constitution, we have racial and economic and political and social and equality in gender and all this. It's already it's already been legislated, it's already been voted upon when the Constitution was ratified. I'm not sure what year that was. The Constitution was signed in 1776. That's why we call it Independence Day, when we became free, free from foreign powers, free from the papacy telling us what to do, free from England and the king taxing us beyond our ability to pay, free as Americans, liberty first, and then all these other things that we expect and demand from our government. I want to be free. If you take away my freedom, I will object, I will oppose you, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that myself and my family stays free. Okay? So you attack my freedoms, be they religious or otherwise, and I will oppose you and resist you till I die. Okay? That's what it means to be an American. Okay? So get that straight, all right, people? Because if you hear anything else out of my mouth, that's what I'm all about. I am a Christian in America who wants to live free to practice and worship their faith the way I see fit. And damned anybody who tries to tell me how and when and where and why I can do that. Okay? So, and I get a little agitated, a little excited about that, but that's how strongly I feel about it. Okay? So I'm glad I got past that because that's a very sensitive area for a lot of people. They don't want to, well, I just don't want to judge people, and I just want to be a good person and help people, and I just want to be a sheep among the rams, and I'm just one of the sheeple. I'll just go about my ways because I'm meek and lowly and humble, and Jesus turned the other cheek, didn't he? And all that. Jesus is love. He's all about love. Well, yes, God is love. And if you love somebody, you're going to protect their freedom. You're going to protect their lives, their physical well being, their property. by his grace, by his by his love for us, by his mercy for us. And when the government comes along and decides that they want to tell people how to live, what to eat, what to say, what to do, and what to think and believe, then that's not freedom. In my America, that's not the America I know, be it Republican or Democrat, white or black or Hispanic or Asian or whatever, or Native American, be it. I think the Native Americans like freedom, by the way. I've met a few Native Americans in my travels. I was born in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, which is about 30 miles from a Cherokee reservation. I come from the same area, the same part of the country that Elizabeth Warren comes from. But about Elizabeth Warren, I must admit that as much as I like her as a human being, I do not endorse her politics. I do not subscribe to her values or her political ideas, especially her economic ideas. I think her economic ideas are misguided and sort of, uh, I guess they're unacceptable to me. That's all I can say, really. If you like Elizabeth Warren, vote for her, okay? If she represents you in government, if that's who you are and she does that, she represents who you are in your government, then please vote for Elizabeth Warren, okay? And God bless her soul. Okay, she's a good person, I think. She's a very smart person. I know that. And I some people call her Granny, like Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies, but I won't call her any nicknames because she's my senator. She represents me, and she's part of the Massachusetts congressional delegation. And so I want to be respectful of her and be positive about her, even if I disagree with her politics. So anyway, that's my position on Elizabeth Warren as an example of how we encounter these decisions, these choices that we make, these moral decisions that we make every day that affect the way we live and our families and the people around us and our communities and our government. So anyway, so yeah, the reason. Okay, let me just pause for a minute and calm down because I get really excited when I talk about politics or things like that because I'm into politics. I follow politics. I watch the news. I don't always get the facts, but I always watch the news, or I read the paper, or I get news from YouTube, or other sources. I subscribe to a couple of international periodicals from other countries. I read those in English and Spanish, and if I can read a little French, more power to me. I don't read German. I wish I could read German, but I read the Daily Mail from England and the Guardian because their system, their parliamentary system, is it allows for other political parties to represent the people in their government. But in England, it's just like here, where there's only two parties that dominate the political reality. And that's here, it's Democrats and Republicans. And in England, it's the Tories, or what you call what is the other name for Tories? I forgot. But then the other party in England is the Labour Party. So I guess conservatives are more like Tories, and the Labour people, they're more like liberals or leftists, left right. This whole left right spectrum where somehow our politics follows this one line, and you're either somewhere in the middle, or you're on some degree of the two sides. And that is a two-dimensional reality. If you view a line and there's a demarcation in the middle, and everybody in America or in the world falls somewhere along that spectrum of to the right or to the left of center, then that's two-dimensional. Okay. I live in a three-dimensional world where I pick up my phone here, and it has weight and it has substance and it has shape. It's not a line like a string or something. Let me see if I have a string in my drawer here. Okay, here's a rubber band. All right. So this is more like a two-dimensional reality. Okay. This is a three-dimensional reality. This book is a three-dimensional reality. It has letters and pages and a cover and a shape. It's in the shape of a rectangle or a rhombus or whatever you want to call it in geometry. It's three-dimensional. I live in a three-dimensional world. Um, and the world, the globe, the earth we live on, the mountains, all of that, if you believe in God, was created by God, not just mere accident or something, or some kind of impersonal process that we just evolved out of nothing. That it takes more faith for me to believe that we evolved out of nothing and that it's just a random chance universe. It takes more faith for me to believe that, me personally, to believe that theory. It takes only a mustard seed of faith, as Jesus put it, to believe God, to believe that impossible things can happen. So, anyway, that's my speech about geometry and dimensional realities and so forth. But, a two-party system and the narrow interpretation of what that means and how it works and everything is so limiting, and we box ourselves into this corner in America where everybody's either on the right or left and barking at each other all the time, all this bickering and fighting about how to spend the budget, how to spend the tax dollars collected, what to do with the money. And every year when they hammer out a budget in Congress, it's like sitting at home with your family where the father and mother and the children are all voicing how they want the money to be spent a certain way. The economic theory begins in the family. When you get a paycheck from your job, whether you're married or not, if you have children or if you want to support yourself or if you have roommates or an extended family or anything like that, when you get your paycheck, you are limited by what you can buy depending on how much money you make. And you are limited by what you can do to provide for those who depend on you, because they are looking to you, especially if they're small children, especially if they're little kids and they need sneakers and clothes and books, and they need good teachers and resources at school, and all this costs money. Somebody's got to pay for all this. So if the government wants to handle public education, I think that's a good thing. But um, they need to teach people all the facts, and not just the facts that uh, the teachers union, the NEA, the National Education Association, not just the facts that they want to teach, but all the facts of history, real history, not revisionist history, but real history, critical realism. That's my basic theory of history. And you can look that up online. Several people have talked about critical realism, and that's where I identify. with historical theory or historical reality is critical realism. So you can look that up, critical realism. Just Google that or something on your search engine. I use 3 different search engines because when I Google something, a lot of times they'll direct me to something that Google wants me to buy, or something or thing idea that Google wants me to believe or say. And I don't believe that Google should control how I think. Google is another thing, That's another thing that is trying to take away my freedom because they want to tell people what to think and believe. They have so much power. Do you realize how much power it is to control the flow of information on the internet, on the World Wide Web? Does anybody have any conception of how much power rests in that? In a corporation that big with very few competitors and no accountability. They're international. There's no government that supervises Google. They're controlled by the corporate directors. Okay? Please grasp this. If you want to be a free American, please understand that there are people who are trying to influence the way you live. And it's not just the press or the educators or the teachers or the university professors. It's these corporations also. And they have a lot of money and a lot of power, and they have a lot of influence on President Trump and President Obama and Clinton and Mike Pence. All these people, somebody's pulling their strings. Somebody's telling them what to do and how to do it. And so this is the world I live in. This is how I see. This is what is going through my mind. Okay. Okay, so one last thing to sum all that up. Just to sum all that up, let me just kind of logically present to you the idea that in the moral law that Moses commanded, that God commanded to write down for the children of Israel. In the moral law, you have 10 basic commandments. And if you follow these, the Bible says that if you follow the teachings of the morality of the Old Testament, that you will prosper, you will be blessed, and God will receive you and dwell among you, and you will be his children, and he will be your God, our God. He will dwell among us. Christ came, fulfilled all the law, and he said that if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. The words that I speak unto you are not my own. I have received them from the Father. Okay? And one more verse in relation to that. When Thomas asked Jesus which way to go, he didn't know. Jesus was going away. Jesus said he was going away. And Thomas wanted to know, well, how are we going to know? Which way are you going? Where are you going? We don't know where it is or how to get there. He said, what way? Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man or woman or person or created being comes unto the Father except through him, Jesus, except by me, Jesus. So look that up. That's John 14, verses 1 through 6. If you read that section, there's only 6 verses that I just mentioned, and they're packed with meaning, and they're packed with theology, and there's a really good lesson in that section of the Gospel of John. Okay? Now, this is what we're studying in these video series that I'm putting up here. And let me just mention that 2 days from now, Friday at 5:30, I'll be online live. If you can't make it to your computer or your home entertainment center, or however you view YouTube, or however you get your videos, um, then if you can't make it to that, if for some reason you're busy Friday evening, you have to cook dinner for the kids, or you're going out to a movie with your boyfriend, or things like that happen. I know. I'm going to a party Friday night right after I get done with the broadcast. A friend of mine's having a birthday, and his wife is inviting people over, and they invited me, and these are people know pretty well so already, and they're good people, and so we're gonna have a good time. She said there's gonna be wine and beer, wine or something, a little drinking maybe, but that doesn't bother me. I mean, even though I don't drink myself, I can be around it. I'm not gonna protest and tell people they can't drink or something, you know. And in Massachusetts now, marijuana is legal, so I wouldn't be surprised if a couple people go outside and toke up, you know. But I'm not gonna like judge them or anything about it. I'm just gonna tell them that I just don't do it. That's my preference. That's all I'm gonna do. That's all you can do. If it's legalized, that's all you can do. If you object to marijuana and beer and wine and whatever else people use and do to for recreational purposes, people do a lot of things for fun. You know, it's some good, some bad, but I can't judge a person. I can't. I don't know their heart. Only God knows their heart. Only God knows their soul and where they're at spiritually. I can't save anybody. I can tell them about Jesus and tell them about the Bible and the gospel, but only God can save them. Only God can save. Only God can forgive your sins. So, my job, as I see it, is to be the messenger, to carry the message. Whatever that message is, I want to carry it. Okay. If it's God's message, I want to carry it. I want to present it. I want to preach it. I want to teach it. Okay. I want to read it and write about it. Okay. That's where I'm at as a pastor, as a Christian minister, or as an ordained reverend in the Baptist church, or as whatever denomination you find yourself in, whatever your gifts are, whatever your talents are, whatever you're doing for man or woman or the world or children or animals or creation or nature, whatever you're called to by God, invest yourself in it and ask God to equip you, to give you the gifts and the talents and the resources that you need, and to give you the strength and the faith and the things that you need, these things that you need, like Bible study, scripture study, to equip you to go out into the world and bring life and light and love to people. Okay, that's what it means to be a Christian. And now, I'm not going to tell people that they shouldn't go to church. People that tell other people they shouldn't go to church because we're all hypocrites or something, well, maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know. But personally, I prefer to be with other Christians because I gain from learning from them. And if I'm a Christian, I want to be with other Christians. If you're a dog, you want to be with other dogs. If you're a sheep, you want to be with other sheep. If you're a lion, you're pretty much on your own most of the time, but you still have to have another lion to reproduce the species and to make love and things like that. If you've ever watched lions in their habitat, the female lions, the the um the female lions take care of the children, take care of the cubs. the ones that they have, the litter. They raise them until they're old enough to hunt for themselves. That's what the women lions do. The men lions, they're just like human men. They they sit around and groom their mane, their beautiful hair, their mane. They groom that and look all, you know, and they hunt. They hunt for food. Okay, some of that food they give to the children. By the way, in their habitat, the lions. And I just wanted to mention one other thing. The kids love this, and it's a Broadway play or a Broadway production. And I don't know if it's still running, but there's a animated film also. I think every family should see The Lion King. That story and that movie is is the kind of stuff that I like to see in our culture, you know. And whoever did that, whoever the Hollywood people were, they should get an Oscar and a Nobel Prize for that movie, as far as I'm concerned. The Lion King. Okay, so anyway, here's the book, the text of our study. I talked about Moses. I told you a million times that please read this if you're going to be involved in the study. So we're going to have this series on Luke, and I just wanted to spend some time with you today because Friday I'm going to launch into the main body of the Gospel of Luke. Last time I touched on Luke chapter 1, verses 1 through 4, which is Luke's introduction as a historical narrative to the gospel story. And so, based on that, I want to say next time on Friday at 5:30, May 24th, here on YouTube, I'm going to be getting into like the first the first section of chapter 1, verses 5 through 25. That's 20 verses. If you can read those and think about them and meditate on them before it's presented on video, then that would be good. That would be optimal. That would be optimal. You don't have to read this book. If you don't like to read, you know, I know some of this stuff is hard to read. This is a long book, according to Luke by David Gooding. But that's the text that I want people to refer to in our discussion and in our teaching. Um, so anyway, and take notes or whatever. Write little essays. You get inspired about a verse you read, or it means a lot to you, and you think that shows you something. Share that with others. Tell us. Share it online. Write me a letter. These things. Um, so anyway, I just want to encourage people to get into the Word of God because it's like the Bible is so rich. There's good literature. There's a lot of good literature, history and fiction and novels, and you can enjoy reading. Some people enjoy reading still. Um, Most people, what reading they do on the internet now or on their Kindle. Now, but I still buy books, believe it or not. I collect books. I like books. Okay? I'm a bookworm. I'm a scholar. You might call me a nerd. Okay? So anyway, um, there you go. According to Luke, and that's our text for this series, besides the Bible. And so in 2 days we're gonna be doing that. Okay, so how many minutes have I gone? 49. Okay, I'm going to keep this down to 50 minutes and I'll send you off with a brief exhortation. And, well, yeah, I better do that. I better wrap it up here because I don't want to belabor people, and I don't want people to get the impression that I expect them to sit in front of their computer and listen to me ramble and talk all the time, or whatever for long stretches of time. So let me just say a quick word of prayer, and close our study. And please read chapter 1, Luke chapter 1, verses 5 through 25 for next time. Okay, Father, we're so grateful. We're so thankful that we have a relationship with you that is based on the love of your Son and the sacrifice of your Son in his death on the cross, his precious blood that means so much and is so powerful to cleanse us from our sin and to restore us to fellowship with you. We're so grateful, Father. You created us, you love us, and you have mercy upon us, and you show us your grace. Teach us the compassion of Jesus and the love of Jesus that we might bring other people into your eternal kingdom in the name of your Son. Amen. Okay, see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.